Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to another fabulous Corker's Outdoor Garden Talks, which we love, with some amazing speakers who I'll introduce you to very shortly. Before we get started, my name's Emma. I get roped into helping with this to make it just a tad more professional.
How dare you?
If Ollie were out here on his own, well, God forbid. No, my name's Emma. I'm a presenter and also a gardener, so I do sort of work in the industry as well. So I'm very grateful to be here. I love working with Corkers, and it's fabulous, fabulous place, as I'm sure a lot of you already know. And we've got a wonderful panel today. We have got Manoj Malde, who is an award-winning garden designer, TV presenter as well, known for his bold use of colour that is inspired by his Indian heritage. So welcome, Manoj. We've also got Els Tisserand, who is the director of Tisserand English Gardens, based in Hertfordshire, specialising in full garden transformations. So welcome to our fabulous panel.
Welcome.
Do you want to introduce yourself, Ollie, or are we...
Yeah,
Is that fine?
I'm Oliver Corker. You all know me pretty much, hopefully. I'm one of the owners here at Corker, and I'm here with my host, Emma, hopefully to give you a lovely summer garden talks.
Marvellous. Okay, Manoj, let's start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about really how you became a garden designer? Because you previously worked in fashion and then you made the transition into garden design. So talk us through your journey.
Yeah, so I can everyone hear me? First of all, yeah. So I worked in the fashion industry for 18 years, started right at the very bottom, worked in Italy, worked in Germany, worked in New York, then went to Hong Kong, lived in Hong Kong, came back here, got a job here, and then slowly worked my way up the ladder. Eventually became a creative director. I actually started the women's wear business for one of the companies that I worked for. We then ended up becoming a #1 lead jersey supplier for Topshop. Within 4 years, we turned that women's wear business into a £10 million turnover business.
Wow.
We were supplying Debenhams, Miss Selfridge, River Island, all of those guys. 18 years, and I actually had a chat with the directors of Debenhams, and I said to them, if you do not change your buying strategy, your doors are going to close one day. And actually, that was kind of when the penny dropped for me, because I could kind of see where the direction was going with that industry. And so at that point, I kind of decided, right, do you know what? I need to go and do something slightly different. Still want to be creative, still want to work with color, still want to work with proportions, all of that. But I need to find something else to do. And I'd always enjoyed gardening. My now husband had started his own garden maintenance business. And I thought, actually, kind of makes sense for me to go and learn how to design gardens. And so I spoke to him, and he said, Manoj, listen, your gut instincts are generally spot on. If that is, and I bear in mind, I was in my early 40s at that point. So yeah, I know I don't look it, but you know, actually I'm 57.
No,
but
you're not. Are you really?
yeah. I'm
Stop it.
57. But I kind of got to that point, and I just thought, do you know what? If I'm going to make that change, I've got to do it now, right? Because I'm not going to do it in my 50s. And he said the same thing. So literally the next day, I took my resignation in and handed it to my chairman and said, I'm leaving. I'd worked my way up. I was, a creative director, but it was time to go and do. And the other thing was, I'd always worked for other companies. So here was that time when I needed to do something for myself. And so that gave me the impetus to actually go back to school and start again. And that's what I did. Went to the English gardening school, studied for my garden design diploma. That was 1 year, 1 year full time. And then I followed it with a plants and plantsmanship diploma, which again, it was another year full time. It was a scary experience because, bearing in mind, I had no income coming in. You know, I was actually going into my savings to pay for all of this. But Clive had gone through a similar thing where he changed careers and I supported him. So in return, he supported me whilst I was studying. And then after I graduated, I slowly started my own little practice, started doing planting plans for people. And then that kind of rolled out to doing full on gardens. And so 16 odd years later, I'm
Amazing.
here designing gardens and doing show gardens and the rest.
It's amazing how transferable those skills are as a creative director at the top to bring that vision into gardens, and yeah, absolutely incredible. So Els, coming over to you, buddy. You've been here before. We've heard a little bit of your background, but just give us another introduction to give us a little refresher of who you are, my man.
Yeah, so I was in fashion as well with Prada.
You got Gucci.
So I'm French originally. That's why Tisserand, the name. And I studied winemaking, so farming background, and then moved to the UK. Worked at Audien Gardens. Really enjoyed that, and started my business. It was a maintenance company at the beginning. And then we did tree surgery, landscaping, and kind of grew a business out of nothing. And now we just specialise in landscaping. And I just love the industry. I think it's a beautiful industry. It's not like going to work. Business side is hard. And that's just a thing that I'm learning. I'm still learning how to run a business. So all of you know that business is the trickiest part. I think the work at hand is really enjoyable, but I can happily say that I've really found my little work path, and I'm really proud and really happy of what I'm doing.
Brilliant, mate. Brilliant. So let's get into then, how do you two know each other? How did you get introduced, and how did the partnership heading towards Chelsea start?
So for me, it was Gareth. So Gareth and Manoj are quite close. They've worked together before, and I got a phone call. I was so psyched. So maybe some of you knew that I really wanted to do Chelsea. It was like a dream of mine, and Justin actually called me first. He said, "You're going to get a phone call from Gareth." I was like, "But don't tell him I told you."
Sorry, Justin.
Yeah. Justin's not here, so I can tell everything now. And I was really psyched. I was like, So then Gareth asked me if I wanted to be a part of Manoj's creation.
Behind the scene, and he already knows this because I've told him, but Gareth actually rang me and said, "There's this guy and I'd like him to be a part of the team if it's okay." And I said to Gareth, "Is he cut out to do Chelsea?" Because, Gareth's done loads of show gardens. I've done a few, worked on other designers' gardens as well as my own. And Gareth said, he's really good. He's got real eye for detail, very proactive. And I said, "Gareth, listen, you and I know each other really well. If you say to me, this guy is good, then I believe you, okay? So if you think he's good, then I think he's good." So I gave the okay for Els to come on board, and God, was that the right decision. So
Thank you. It was what a great opportunity. So for us, it was like, wow, fuck me, we're gonna get a taste of this Chelsea thing,
and actually,
and to do it for you as well.
What was cool. Really lovely is the fact that Justin and Els have really complementary skills, and they really egg each other on, and you can really see that synergy is really there. And I have to say, what I'm really grateful for, especially with the project that we did at Chelsea, the whole team was singing off the same hymn sheet, and they really gelled together. I mean, even Rosanna. Rosanna, my planting lead, she's a tough cookie. And when she says something needs to be done, it needs to be done.
She's Italian.
But, yeah. And actually, it was really funny because, the guys could not handle her. So anytime they wanted to say something to her, they'd come to me and say, we just need her to do this. Can you go and speak to her?
Chinese whispers.
Yeah.
Manoj, can you tell us a little bit? I think it was you that just mentioned that about both of you and then Justin as well, and all of your skill sets really complementing each other.
Yeah.
How did you all work in different ways that meant you all complemented each other when it came to the build?
I think what the great thing was that these guys were really excited about the design itself. And actually, when I showed them the design, in fact, there were times when I couldn't get a word in edgeways because Justin and Els used to get. They were like, seriously, they were like kids in a sweet shop. And I'd be like, yeah, we can do this, we can do that. And what about this? And what about that? And it was like, oh my god, these guys are phenomenal. So, and actually, we ran with the ideas, and you know, like. One of the things that actually Els came up with, he said, look, you know, what if we're going to get these big rocks and boulders, why don't I polish the tops up, turn them into steel, and then literally at the show, we were building the garden, and he said, shall I do you a little bird bath in there? And it was like, yeah, go for it. You know, so we were literally just, it was all talking to each other all the time, but just adding those little details in all the time. And you know, these guys, they're contractors. They're not necessarily designers, but they've got a great eye for detail. And for me as a designer, I know that there are designers out there who are really like divas. I'm not one of those designers, right? I'm very much willing to listen to what the contractors have to say. It's a partnership, right? And you've got to keep that partnership going. You know, and it's the designer's remit to make sure that actually that partnership works really, really well. I always say to design, listen to your contractors because they know how to build your vision. You have a vision, but that's all you have, right? Now, I'm not knocking designers here because obviously I am one myself, but these guys build every single day. And through that, they have learned what works and what doesn't work, right? And how certain things can be built and how certain things can't be built. And also where you can save money by doing something another way. And that's why it really, really worked. I mean, do you remember the amount of hours we spent with Weather It just trying to get that water feature right? We sat there for hours.
The build up is huge. Like, you know, like Manoj saying, like we were like kids in the candy shop because we want the best garden. We want to, you know, in a selfish way, we want a gold, you know, and we want to really showcase what we're about as a team. So you've got Manoj with the great vision, and we're, like you say, we're here to help him make it a reality. And you know, we would chuck ideas, and Manoj and that's we really appreciated it all along. And you would just, tell me your idea, and you wasn't shotting it off because, you know, you didn't think about it at the time or whatever. You were very, very collaborative with it, and sometimes it was too much. It's like, chill out, you know. You know, but even during the build, it was like, what do you think of this? And you have to think on your feet. And actually working with Justin, Manoj, Gareth, Rosanna, it's all business owners. It's all very strong characters in a very intense situation. So you don't know how you're going to gel together. You know, Justin and I could have had punch-ups, but we didn't because you do listen. But, you know, I don't think you can collaborate with any Tom, Dick and Harry. You know, in that collaboration, I think we were lucky.
We were very lucky.
Very lucky.
And any designer that does a show garden and a contractor as well, you've just got to make sure that that design that you see in front of you, everyone absolutely believes in it. If there's one person who doesn't believe in that vision, then actually they shouldn't be part of that team.
It's got to be one of the most important elements, collaboration of a successful project at Chelsea. You know, working towards that North Star as a team.
Exactly.
Like how was it for you, Els? Like you say, having someone so open, like Manoj, that listened to your ideas and you could be reactive on the site. Because like you say, people put, you know, restrictions out of you doing stuff.
It was brilliant. It was awesome. It was, it was getting our creativity out, and that's why we're able to add little details to the build.
Yeah.
The original plan Manoj drew was a lot more complex.
Yeah.
And when we submitted it to the RHS, they really wanted to strip it back. They simplified the elevations and things like that.
Yeah.
And we were quite upset about that.
We were. In fact, their comment, and I'll be honest about it, their comment was, you've got about 10 different gardens in this garden. And we want you to simplify it.
Wow.
Because what we had done is we had actually created some amazing levels, and actually I'd still love that original garden to be built, because what we had done is the pathways we'd actually elevated in certain areas and lowered them in certain areas, so you were creating this undulating journey through the whole garden. And even the water feature, we had set it on 2 different levels, hadn't we?
I think, I'm sorry to cut you, Manoj, but I think that's what it's cost us the gold.
Yeah, and
you know,
actually,
we didn't get
back.
gold. We got silver Mary, and we're chuffed.
Yeah.
You know, you still have to be happy with that medal.
Yeah.
But I think the RHS really simplified your original vision.
Yeah.
And I think I fell in love with that because we worked for months on end on that original drawing.
Yeah.
And we were really wrapping our brains on how we were going to build it and how it was going to work. And obviously, you know, got simplified because they wanted the garden to be built, but they wanted it, you know, slightly more simple.
Exactly.
But you know, it is one of those.
Oh, exactly. I mean, it was
happens.
still a beautiful garden, and the sponsors were absolutely delighted. In fact, they came up to me at the end and they said, "Do you know what? This is actually gone way beyond our expectations. The garden apparently, and this comes from the RHS, the garden had, out of all the gardens at Chelsea, it had the most pre-show coverage.
Wow.
So magazines, TV,
Pictures of me.
Yeah, pictures of me, yeah, exactly. and that's great news, because that's what the sponsor wants. You know, they want to get their message out there. And even through the show, we had the BBC come and film on the garden 12 times. First day of the show opened on our garden and closed on our garden.
Amazing.
I mean, God, you couldn't ask for more, could you?
So, from your experience, I mean, how many Chelsea flower shows have you done now? In the past?
So I've done 6 in total, 3 for other designers, 3 of my own.
Have you ever experienced a sort of bit of a kickback in terms of like the design and the vision from the RHS? Is that fairly normal?
It is fairly normal. They... And I think part of the reason why, and I realise this now on hindsight, part of the reason why they didn't say this to me, but they wanted me to actually put everything at one level, because the garden next door to ours, Tom's garden, also used hexagonal shapes and had them at different levels. And what the RHS don't want is 2 gardens looking very similar.
Yeah.
And I reckon that is the reason. And in his garden, lowering the levels wouldn't have worked at all. Whereas in my garden, it worked. So that was the reason why they probably approached me to say, can you rethink this?
Yeah, because his was quite modular, wasn't it? I think next door.
Yeah, exactly.
So what was the vision for your garden, Manoj? What was the vision, mate?
The inspiration actually came, the sponsors, just to give you a little bit of background, the sponsors were the largest pharmaceutical company in the UK that actually produce HIV medication. So I asked them for the molecular structure of the medication. And when they sent this to me, I saw all of these hexagonal shapes in different dimensions. And I thought, actually, that's my garden there, you know, and I can use that hexagonal shape and turn that into a garden. So I started just playing around with different dimensions in hexagons, literally just placing them next to each other and playing around with them. And the more I started to do that, the more I saw a garden actually coming off the paper. And that's how the garden started. So it was literally the molecular structure of the drug that inspired the garden.
Incredible. I remember seeing it on the walls. It was because it was so many different materials as well, wasn't
Yes.
it? And how intricate was that for you to deliver? Dels?
Yeah, it's the different elements. I mean, it took, obviously we had all the meetings, the Zoom calls with Manoj and Gareth, but behind the scenes it was Justin and I on Zoom late at
Scratching
night.
everything.
Yeah, and just talking to the suppliers, talking to, you know, like you were saying, whether it's had a huge part because we had a lot of steel work.
Yeah.
And you know, the different elements. Nick, who was planning the waterworks, you know, we had to run everything past him. Is that going to work? And the paving was all laser cuts. So we had no tolerance. You know, when you're laying slabs, they're rectangles or square. You know, you can work.
Can I
with
just
tools.
pop in there? So we had limestone slabs, bespoke cut to the dimension that I wanted them at. And, you know, limestone actually is not easy to work with because it's actually quite soft and it can break easily as well. And then Justin said, yeah, we can lay that. You know, we'll put 5mm gaps for the pointing. And I was like, no, you won't. You'll put 3mm and do it with 3mm pointing gaps. And it was like, really? Okay. Yeah, okay, we'll do it. And they did. And the 3mm pointing gaps looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
And it just doesn't give you like wiggle room for error because the hexagonals, like your falls, it's really hard to work out falls
Yeah.
because obviously they're touching on how many sides? 6,
Yeah,
7,
6.
12. But you know, so it is really hard to get right. And the intricacy on the pergola, because it was again hexagonals and the post came out of the paving, so we didn't want to see like the paving to be cut around the post of the pergola. So we engineered spigots and dropped the post and laid it. We had like 2 mil to play with, and now on a job of that caliber and the stress level, it's just
You guys also had to match those slabs up to the metal hexagons that created the bridge.
exactly.
As well.
So it was all
It needed to be. There was literally
no space for error.
no space for error.
You couldn't shave a slab slightly shorter because you were off, because then it just offset everything else.
Yeah.
So it's like doing a high-end garden, but even more intense.
Yeah.
You know, it is. You know, when you're snagging the metalwork, normally on jobs we snag them standing up, you know, a distance away. But on Chelsea, you're with you know, how do you call those? A micro thingy, like
Macro lens.
and you're really scanning everything for, you know,
Finest detail.
like it's the detail to achieve that with the level of stress, because that hospital road,
Oh, it's
where you got freaking lorries just coming in, out, in, and every garden's got, you know, a 3-ton digger, if not bigger, a dumper, a telehandler,
It's
and
so tight up there as well. Though,
exactly. So that's our garden. We had 4 pieces of plant, but so is every other garden.
Else, yeah.
So you can imagine the intensity of that site. It's mental.
But do you remember even before we actually got to site, we had issues in terms of I'd had a company that was actually going to create our living walls for us, and literally we've got, what was it, about a month to go or something?
Yeah, just about that.
And they turned around and said, sorry, we can't do this. 2 huge living walls, and they just turned around and went, we can't do this. So I was absolutely shitting it, and sorry, that's on camera now, isn't it? I spoke to obviously Els and Justin and Gareth, and Justin said, don't worry, I'll build them.
Really?
And literally, the poor guy, I mean, you know, he's got young little kids. He was spending every evening in his workshop, gone midnight, building these walls. And then we went to Els's place, or your mother-in-law's place, and I had the plants delivered there. and we actually planted the walls there.
Wow.
2 walls planted. Els was looking after them, watering them, making sure that they're coming on, feeding them. And then we brought those walls in, ready planted, to the site. We were looking after them on site, and it was hot.
Yeah.
So we covered them so that they weren't drying out, kept on watering them, and then they were craned in, weren't they, into
Yeah.
position. That honestly, when things like that happen, and you're kind of thinking, I've got a month. How am I going to make these living walls
Look.
look
Yeah.
like they are established and lush and looking absolutely full on? Yeah, that was a bit of touch and go.
Do you think that is part of the enjoyment of doing a Chelsea garden? Is all the problem
100%.
solving, the challenges that you
100%.
overcome?
Absolutely.
I think the biggest challenge that we had, talking about challenges, is we had
6 slabs.
Yeah, 6 slabs missing. They weren't missing. They were in Justin's workshop, and they picked them up to laser cut them because for some reason they came square slabs when they should have been laser cut to hexagonals. So they picked them up, went to cut them, came to site, 5 days towards the end, but they beveled the edges.
And
But
then
none of the slabs were beveled. So we're like trying to see if we can make it work. We can't make it work. It's Chelsea. You can't make it work. You can't cut them. You can't do nothing.
and bless Justin and Els, they were coming out with designers like there was no design ideas like there was no tomorrow. They
we
go,
would
we could do this and we could do that.
like
and I'm
gravel
going,
channels and planting around it. It
I
was
was
insane.
no, guys, it just doesn't work.
So
because-
the replacements were in Spain. So we got 5 days spare,
Blimey.
and we got this factory that needs to cut 10 slabs because we wanted more than we needed. And then it's not just that; it's getting them over. So I was going around Chelsea. Do you know anyone that would down a box of Red Bull and go to Spain and back in a day? And I was on the phone and I was walking past a small garden in Fenton. A guy that I met on another show garden was building there, and I explained the problem. And this is why it's good to share because everyone's there to help. And he said, "Well, my father works in haulage. Here you go, his number. Call him." And had his father on the phone. Then he said, "I'm going to pass you to this lady." And she was like, "I'll get someone there tonight." I was like, "They're not ready yet. They need to be cut and processed." And obviously, all that money is coming out of the spare little pot of money that you got left over of the budget. And we got them. I got videos on my phone of me driving an Avant around Chelsea at 9:30. They were like, the slabs turned up. A Polish guy, didn't speak a word of English, trying to explain where to go at the gate to Chelsea. And we had 7 minutes to spare.
There was
and
a
they'd kick you out.
There was a driver change as well, wasn't there? In between when they were actually driving
because
it from Spain.
he was having too many brakes on his tacho. It was insane.
And obviously I was kind of again like, Jesus, are these slabs ever going to arrive? Because until those slabs were in, we couldn't finish off the planting. So we kind of just had to work around all of that.
And towards the end, to get rid of all the plants, so you can't have any machinery because everyone's planting.
Yeah.
So Chelsea, the RHS don't want diggers going up and down to kick up the dust. And you have poor people cleaning leaves for weeks, making sure the plants are in tip-top shape. So we had to gauge up all the mixes in the barrow by hand, and it's more time consuming, and it was hot and it was stressful. I'd do it again.
Els, can you talk to us
I
about...
sound worn out now.
Sounds exhausting, to be fair. Can you tell us about what doing Chelsea or the Chelsea experience has taught you about building clients' gardens now?
I mean, you wouldn't build any client's garden the way we do at Chelsea. In some, the planting.
You would drive to Spain for a client to get outside.
I would, but it'd take me more than a day. The build is just so different. Like show gardens, the way we build in at show gardens, it's not built to last. So, and it's so, you know, it's like the couture, like the garden's there. It's not really necessarily something your clients are going to say, yes, I want that. They might pick ideas. I think your garden, actually, out of all the gardens, is something that clients could see in their own space. What is beautiful.
We actually had, didn't we? Through the show, we actually had visitors coming and saying we could pick this whole garden up and literally just put it into our garden. So
it was a beautiful space. So
the other thing is when you're designing a Chelsea garden, because in effect you're actually creating a stage set because you've got to knock it down in the end and take it away, and you're given 4 days to do that in, and you've got to return that site back to the same condition that you were given that site in. So you've got to, when you're actually designing and talking about the build and how this garden's going to come together, you've got to keep that in mind. That actually, okay, we're going to do this, but how are we going to break it down? And how are we going to then take it away? So
the only time you can use CT1, I reckon.
I think what it shows, though, from all your side, really, is how you can execute on something like that in such a short amount of time. And
the thing is, like you say, it's only like 2 and a bit 2 weeks and like 5 days, 3 days or something like that. So, but you get a short period of time to build, but you've got so much planning that goes into it to make it possible to build in such a short period of time. So we do all the bridge was just dropped in. A lot of the features element when you're planning it, it's like, how can you make it easy for yourself? Because it's a flower show, so hardscape is one thing, and we're landscapers and we love it, but it's a flower show, so you want to finish the hardscape as soon as you can, because the plants need to settle. They need to, they need to look like they've been there for a while. It's not just like a paving display.
It needs to look like an established garden. That's the key behind doing show gardens. That they need to, exactly. And you'll get visitors who'll ask, how do you achieve this look? The fact that it looks like it's a garden that's been there for years, and that is the art of creating a show garden, that it needs to look as if it's settled and it's been there for years.
Like that planting team, I mean, for us landscapers, is something to see firsthand. The way, in a normal garden, you'd put 7 plants a square meter, roughly, 4 to 7, depending on how the planting scheme's set out. There, you're talking between 40 and 60 plants a square meter. It's insane. The pots are literally against each other, and that takes, to make it look not squished but busy, it takes. Rosanna, the leader planting, was sensational.
Yeah, it really was. And one of the key things with planting a show garden is to make sure that the plants also have a little bit of breathing space as well, so that they all stand out. You've got to have that. The other thing, going back to detail, is to then, how you get things like Origeron, for instance, prolific self-seeder, right? It'll go into little cracks, it'll germinate, it'll then come up, and you've got a few little flowers there. So we had Origeron in our garden, and we had other prolific self-seeders as well. So how do you then interpret that into the garden? So what we then start doing is we start splitting plants up, literally cutting through them and taking little bits out, and then just putting them here and there in little cracks in the gravel areas that we had, just to show that actually this garden's always been there. The seeds have germinated.
Does that come with experience, though? Is that a tip you had when you first started, or is that just experience?
I learned that through working with Chris Beardshaw on his garden. It was a Furzy garden. I think it was 2012, if I remember correctly. And Chris took me into the garden. He had this structure and he said, right, I want you to plant the plants under this structure, but before I let you loose on that, I want you to tell me exactly what happens here. And I said, well, there's not much light here, so you're going to get really weak, tall, lanky growth. And he said, spot on. Now make those plants look like that. And that's when I suddenly went, oh my God, I get it. So this is what it's about.
Staging.
Like, yeah. And actually thinking that, okay, this is the space. What is going on in this space? And how does that affect the plants? You know? So it's all down to detailing.
It was same. I kind of learnt that this year at Chelsea. You know, some of the foxglove a bit more in an open area, much taller. And then Rosanna just feathered them under the multi-stem trees, and they were getting really small because in nature they're competing against that tree.
Yeah.
So you know, it's the thought that goes behind it is insane. It's really cool. It's nice to see from a landscaper's point of view.
Yeah.
From your side, though, I think what would be really interesting for people watching, people in the audience, is how you logistically plan and manage that. Is that led by you and Just? Are you doing all that yourself?
Yeah, so Justin took a lot of the paperwork.
'Cause that is intense.
Yeah, so the way Chelsea works, and obviously with the support of Gareth was busy this year. You had 4 gardens as well, but still supporting us. So Justin took the paperwork. So all the lorries, the deliveries had to have a booking slot. So we had to make sure it was on the right day and stuff like that. We would share the load because I've organised a few things like the hire of the plant. So we'd help each other out on that side. And then it kind of takes you a bit by surprise when you get all your deliveries. You think you're going to have a bit of time, but it really draws you away from the garden. So you're building the garden, and one day we had 3 lorries turn up with all of our materials. And then suddenly you're like, I need another forklift. You know, we've got one, but I've lent it to a friend of mine who's building another garden. Yeah. So now that's gone and it's over there. So to take it back, it takes you about an hour.
That's what I see you whizzing past me in the forklift.
Yeah. And then I borrowed another forklift from another guy. I said, it'll be 5 minutes. An hour later, he came to me and said, can I have it back? I was like, you know, it's not chaotic, but everyone's there helping each other as well.
There's a lot of camaraderie.
It's massive.
I think the thing is that everyone knows that every single garden needs to be finished before the judges come round and start judging. So you're all working for the same goal. You know, if a garden next to you needs something, then in fact, Tom's garden, they didn't even have a bloody hose, did they? They kept on borrowing ours. So, but you just do it because those gardens have got to get completed.
Yeah, well, everyone knows how much pressure everyone's under, don't they, as well?
Exactly.
Yeah, but going back on the planning and organisation and madness of Chelsea, I think is, you know, if I was to do it again, you kind of need someone that is not working on a garden. That is really like a runner. You know, like on a TV set, you've got someone that just runs and gets you this.
You almost need somebody that is PA, admin, and runner. All those 3 in one person.
To take that load away from the build, basically, because the build does suffer from you being pulled every direction. So you just want to be staying on that build because the quicker you do the hard landscaping, the quicker the plant happens.
I've just suddenly remembered. Do you remember when the trees came in?
Yes. Yeah.
So I had actually tagged 3 trees that came in, and 1 tree was okay. The other 2 trees hadn't flushed. So we went off looking for more trees with the same nursery. Found them, thank God, because I'd rejected 2 trees. And then the hedges came in. And all of this happened on Monday. The hedges came in and they were shredded to bits by caterpillar. And it was like, no, can't use these. Where are we now going to get Chelsea looking hedges at this point in time. And literally, Gareth, myself, and Jono
Yeah.
got into one of Els's vehicles and literally spent the whole day driving from one nursery to another. We ended up down in Southampton and found our hedges in
Blimey.
Southampton. When we should have actually been at Chelsea.
Yeah.
But when you think you're on your own dealing with those problems, you go to the pub at the end of the day around the corner from Chelsea, and you chat to the designers or the other
same issue.
Everyone has the same issue, and everyone's like, you'll get through it, and you'll get it sorted. Or Jamie Buttersworth had a look at what trees he had, and so everyone's quite like we're all in the same.
Yeah,
shoes.
I think it's how you deal with those issues.
Exactly.
There's always issues, but how do you solve them?
Exactly.
I think we're out of time, guys. I'm so sorry. You
we
guys
could
are going to
stay
be
here
around. No, we could chat to you all day. And I just want to, have we got time to do audience questions? Marvellous. I just wanted to make sure we had time. Has anyone got a question for Els or Manoj about Chelsea, the building generally? Hello, sorry, you're going to have to speak into this microphone, and I'm afraid. Hang on. There you go.
Hiya. What advice would you give to somebody who's looking to do a Chelsea garden in the future?
Do you want me
Is
to
this working?
Yeah. So obviously, if you secure a garden, the first bit of advice I would say is you can't overplan. Your work. I know your work. You can do the work. It's no issue. And actually, that's the easy part. Is the unforeseen things that you try to plan as much as you can for those unforeseens. The things that really throw you curveballs is things that are not in your control. So haulage, delivery, or if you've got a fabricator, he might not live on the same. He doesn't get Chelsea as much as you do. You need top. Everything needs to be perfect. And his perfects are different perfect. So you really need to surround yourself with a team that all kind of singing from the same hymn sheet, like you were saying at the beginning. And you can't underplan. You have to just plan every little bit down to the finance. Your company is not invoicing during that period. So you need to make sure you're charging enough for that garden build. So like when you go back to work, you're not like, oh, why did I do this? You know what I mean? So financially it needs to work, planning, and a third one would be keep a chunk of money. Sorry, Mano, a chunk of money for all the fines that you get in London.
Oh God, yeah.
$2.5 grand. $2.5 grand I did in my truck.
Yeah.
So you need that chunk of money there.
One of the advices that I would get if you've never done a show garden, especially at Chelsea, because actually Chelsea is in its own stratosphere compared to places like Hampton Court and Tatton and Malvern and all of those, which are great places to start doing a show garden. But what I would say is, if that is your ambition, go and work on some show gardens with other contractors. Really get to grips with what creating a show garden is about, because it is not like creating a client garden. There's a fundamental difference there, and so go and get that experience. I mean, I'm so glad, and I say this to designers, it's not just contractors. I've had a designer who said to me, oh, I want to go and do a Main Avenue garden at Chelsea, and I said, well, go and cut your teeth on another designer's garden for a few years. Oh, no, I know what I'm doing. I know I'm a good designer. I can go and do this. He then went to Hampton Court, didn't get a medal. Why? Because you don't have the experience. You don't understand how show gardens work. So for anyone, be it contractor or designer or even a planting person, go and get your experience first. Do that for 2 or 3 years. I did it for 3 years. And then I did my first one after that. So get that experience. Honestly, it's so important.
Brilliant.
Any other questions for these guys? I mean, obviously they'll be hanging around, won't you? So you can ask them then. No other questions? Marvellous. Round of applause,
Thank
please.
you so much.
Els and Manoj.
Yours.